name's Michelle Rumpel, and my company is called Mediavine Marketing. And I want to talk to you all tonight about how you can use social media to promote your business in 2014. Because things have changed a little bit since last fall even. And so the big change that's come about is something called Google Hummingbird. Has anybody heard of that? Anybody heard of, okay, one person's heard of Google Hummingbird. All right, so what happens is, every so often, Google says, you know what, we need to make a change in our search algorithm. We need to do an update in how we return results to when people, when people search on the internet. So this last update, they like to give them cute names, and this last update was called Hummingbird. What Hummingbird does is it's kind of along the line, and this will makes people scared, but it's kind of along the line of more and more artificial intelligence, where they're returning search results based on a lot of intuitive things. Like they're looking at your history, they're looking at your location, they're looking at your social channels, and they're returning results based on all of those things that you've been doing online. And it's also a way for Google to respond to the advent of the smartphone. Most of us anyway, have smartphones. And what's happening is a lot of times we're taking our smartphones and maybe we're out and about and we're looking for something. And how many of you have voice-activated search on your phones? All right. And probably we can blame Siri for this on the iPhone. But a lot of times we'll be, looking for something on our phone, and we'll ask questions kind of like in a conversational way. So we'll say like, what's the nearest, or how do I do this, or what can I do, those types of questions. And Google recognizes this. Google recognizes that things are going more mobile, searches are becoming more conversational, and so they're returning results based on that. And so what happens is, and I'll just show you this here. What happens for a business is that we need to think in social media and what we're doing online with our websites, with our articles, videos, things like that. We need to be thinking about how do we answer the questions that people are asking online. That's the business application of what's changed with Google. Because let's face it, Google is king, right? So this is kind of a cool graphic that I found that really illustrates what Google Hummingbird's all about. So you've got this, you've got your search request, you put in your search in Google, then Google goes, okay, there's a search coming. They go through all the content that's available, on that sentence or those keywords that you've put in. They look for keywords on relevant websites. They look at the relevancy, okay? Then they look at the credibility of the site. Think about it. What's more credible? What's a more credible website? Would it be Forbes.com or Bob's accounting firm? Maybe that's a bad question, but that's probably a really bad question. But Forbes obviously has a ton of visitors, right? They have a ton of people that are commenting on the site. So in Google's mind, the mind of Google, they're thinking of it as a more credible source. So the likelihood of them, returning a Forbes article than Bob's article is probably, going to be greater. And then going through all of those things, and then of course timeliness. So an article that's 3 years old as opposed to one that just popped up yesterday, was posted yesterday, they're probably going to serve up the one that's posted yesterday, probably. So that's how it works. So what's changed is that Google is going more mobile-oriented. They're going more question-oriented. They're looking for content that matches the meaning of the request. And this is what I was talking about earlier with kind of going along the lines with artificial intelligence. It's becoming more intuitive because they've got more and more data that they can pull from. Your data, everybody else's data, a lot of things talking about data, but that's the reality of where we are. It also draws insight from a lot of different signals. Again, like I mentioned, your location, your previous search history, and even your social media activity. It's pulling all of those things together. And one of the things that used to be really popular was people would stuff their websites, their web pages with a bunch of keywords. And in fact, even years ago, Tony was talking. We were talking about this with Tony. People would like stuff web pages with a whole bunch of keywords. They would make them in white font on a white background so that people couldn't see them, but Google would read them because they were actually text. Yeah, Google doesn't like that. They spanked all the websites that did that. But that was a tactic way back when, and it's still a tactic for a lot of people that do SEO. You know what I mean by SEO, search engine optimization. Now, keywords. I'm not saying that keywords are bad. You should have keywords and key phrases in your web pages, but it's not the be-all, end-all anymore. Not like it used to be. So content is still king, and I'm going to talk about, especially for businesses, business to business. How many of you have business to business businesses? Most of you, or you're headed that way, right? When it comes to business websites, what I'm going to be talking about is really, really valuable, okay? When you create content for your website, you want to make sure that you consider how users are searching, how your potential customers are searching, and then you want to, you really want to consider what people want to know about your products or services, or both. So you have to begin with the user in mind. You can no longer, set up a website with all of this content that's all about you. And you know how it is. I mean, they've got like a web page that's this long with about us and all that kind of stuff. It's okay, but it's not really where it needs to be. You need to be putting the content in your website that answers questions, answers the questions that people are asking. That's the name of the game. So you want to have good descriptive content. You want to tap into long tail searches. Anybody know what long tail means? You know what I'm talking about there? Yeah. Anybody else want to say it? Yeah. I know some of you have heard this before. Long tail search means like what I was talking about. How do I file my taxes? That's a long tail keyword. It's several words long. It's not one word. It's a long tail phrase or a long tail keyword. And so you want us to talk about how do I answer the questions that my customers or my potential customers are asking. And I'll talk about how we do that. All right, so here's some titles that I just pulled off of the internet. I did some Google searches, and some that would likely be used by people that are searching for B2B type of business to business type of services. So one would be I did a search on how do I remember this is very conversational. How do I calculate sales tax? I popped up an article on the first page of Google. The article was how to calculate sales tax rates. You can see where I'm going with this, right? I did a Google search on what type of insurance do I need for my business. You can see that an article popped up on the first page. Small business insurance, part 1, what type of insurance do I need? And that was on the SBA's website, Small Business Administration. So you can see how people are asking questions, and the articles that pop up are the ones that match the questions that are being asked. So you can see how that works. So here it is. Everybody asks all the time, what's the secret? What's the secret, Michelle? We don't get it. We need to use social media. What is the absolute secret? And I'm here to say that it all boils down to, especially for B2B companies, it boils down to content, it boils down to consistency, and continuity. Really and truly. I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy. Content. If you jump into social media and you don't have content, if you don't have anything to say, you're not really going to get anywhere, unfortunately. I mean, you need content and you need an audience. I mean, the audience thing is really big too. But if you don't have anything to say, that whole thing about build it and they will come, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And so you really have to think, really hard about, okay, I have a business, I want to use social media to market it. Am I going to be able to come up with content to put on my website, to get people to my website, and also to share on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Or am I going to find money to pay somebody to come up with content, whether it's an article or a video or a white paper or something like that? You really have to think hard and fast about that. Now, can you have some degree of success on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. using somebody else's content? Yeah, you can. You see all the time, especially like on LinkedIn, you see people sharing articles from their industry. They didn't write it, they're just sharing it. Maybe they make a little comment about it, people read it, they associate the article with that person. They go, oh, that's a CPA, they're sharing a CPA or an article about taxes. Cool, maybe I need to give them a call, or her a call. So you can have a measure of success, but if you're trying to get people to your website where they can find out more about you, or you want to get people maybe to your other social media channels, you've got to get them to your main place, your main asset, which is your website. And what you need on your website is stuff. You need web pages, you need articles, you need videos, you need something like that so that they can find out more about you and you become that go-to expert that they need. So the whole thing about the tortoise and the hare. Here's the other thing is that we come across a lot of people that said, oh, we tried that social media stuff for a couple months and it just did nothing for us. Unfortunately, a couple months is not probably going to get you anywhere either. You have to stick with it. You're probably not going to reap a lot of benefits until you've been at it for several months, years even. I'm connected to somebody on Facebook and in other places too. She's a frequent blogger. She helps businesses. And she was just posting on Facebook the other day. She was like, oh, I'm finally seeing a lot of great traction on my social media activity. And it had been like a couple of years. It just took, she had seen other successes, don't get me wrong, but it takes time. So you can't give up after a couple months. You've got to keep with it, unfortunately. Like I said, it's simple, but it's not easy, usually. Unless you're really, a great writer and you love to write all the time. So, okay, so you've got your business. How do you start? How do you do this? Well, like anything else in your business, you need to have a plan. Another plan. Another thing to do. Now, hopefully you already have some sort of a marketing plan in place. It can be very simple. It can be a one-page. And if you want, you can contact me and I can send you a one-page marketing plan template thing. But I can send you something to fill out, and it really just makes you focus on the really important stuff, like who's your target market, who are you trying to sell to, who are they, what do they look like, where do they hang out online, those types, where do they hang out, period, those types of things. You really want to get that cemented in your mind, because if you don't know who they are, it's really hard to know how to structure your website and your content, to those people. Now, most of you probably have a pretty good idea of what your target market is, but there are times when a company's been kind of sailing along for a while, and then something happens like 2007 or 2008 or 2009, and all of a sudden the customers aren't there anymore, and they have to regroup and go, man, who am I trying to market to? It's changed. So you may have to do some regrouping. And you also want to make sure that you're verbalizing what makes you better or different than your competition. And if you can't say that, that's another story too. But you've got to work on those things. Marketing people know all this stuff all the time. All right, so you want to get organized. You have a plan. What we counsel clients on is they need to come up with a calendar, an editorial calendar. It can be really simple. It can just be a spreadsheet or, a piece of lined paper or whatever. But you need to come up with dates and a plan. February, we're going to do a quick video on this. and it's going to be done by so-and-so. And March, we're going to do an article. We're going to do 2 articles, actually, and we're going to answer the questions of X and Y, because we know our salespeople are out there, or I'm the salesperson, however big your company is, and people keep asking me this or that. So I'm going to answer those this and that questions in some articles, quick articles. They can be 300 words. They don't have to be elaborate, big deals. Okay? You're going to also, kind of along what I was saying, you're going to make a list of questions that people are asking. Like I said, ask your sales staff. What are people asking out there when you're talking to people? And use your sales cycle. Not every business has a really distinctive sales cycle, but a lot of them do. You know that in the summer, things are kind of slower, let's say, so we're going to punch it up with this type of stuff. We're going to do some videos, some silly videos, I don't know. But plan it out, and then that way you have a goal to reach, and it's not that 6 months later, and believe me, I've been there, where you go, oh, shoot, we haven't really created any content lately. Now you've got a goal in mind, and you're ready to go. What you really want to do with your articles, your videos, your infographics. All heard of infographics? Most of you? All right. They're graphics with a lot of information. That's it. Okay. But a lot of people like them. They like to post them on Facebook and different places, and they like to look at them, visually, the concepts. So you want to become the go-to experts. Bruce Goddard, he should be a go-to expert on all things mortgage related, right? You want to be the place that people think of as trusted authorities on your particular subject matter. And the only way that you can really communicate that is by sharing your expertise in the form of, articles, videos, whatever. That's white papers, whatever it is. That's the way that you establish that expertise. Or maybe you do a webinar. Or maybe you do some kind of audio conference call and you promote it. Or you do an event like this and you do a speaking engagement and you write a short little post about your speaking engagement. Whatever. But any of those things to become a trusted authority. You want to show your humanity a little bit with your company. Let people know that there are people behind it. I mean, that's obvious. But sometimes we need to see who we're dealing with, especially with the B2B. And tell a story. All right, so how many of you have a website? Okay. How many of you actually have a blog on your website?
I have a blog separate.
Oh, a separate, okay, but you've got a blog somewhere, okay? Great. All right, so here's the thing. If you have a website already, that's okay. You can actually have a blog added to your website by a website developer. You could probably even, if you want to spend some time, you probably don't have the time, you could probably even, add one on yourself. There's tutorials out there. I would recommend something called a WordPress blog. Now there's 2 different kinds of WordPress blogs. There's one called WordPress.com, which is where WordPress hosts your blog on their servers, and you own the content, but you don't really own the whole blog. Like, you don't own that site, really. It's free, so if WordPress decided to pull the plug, I don't think they would, but if they did, there goes your blog. It's gone. Or if some kind of glitch happened, there it goes. It's gone. The other thing you can do is something called WordPress.org, where you actually download the files of WordPress and have a website developer add them to your website. You put a link on your website, and it's all integrated into one thing. Now, the beauty of this, when you put it on your website, is that when you start adding articles or videos, because you can add articles and videos on a WordPress blog really, really easily. Almost as easily as using Word, Microsoft Word. Not quite that easily, but almost as easily as that. You start putting articles on your website or videos or whatever, you start building up a body of content with all these great keywords and all these great titles that answer those questions that your customers are asking. You get the traffic to your site, and you capture capture them. So then maybe, hopefully, they're going to click around and find out a little bit more about your company. It's a really, and WordPress, the software is free, okay? So you would just have to pay a website developer, you know, maybe a few $100s usually, to add it to your site. Most of the time it's really, quite a simple prospect. And they can kind of make it match the look of your site and all of that. So it's kind of a seamless looking thing. You also want to make sure that on the blog, actually on your whole site, you can actually add social media icons, sharing that. You've seen it, right? You go to a website and it says tweet this or share this, like this, whatever. You can add those to your own website very quickly and easily. There's lots of little things that you can have added that won't take a lot of time and money to do.